Today we're going to look at a fascinating rethink of something a lot of us have in our homes, but, well, we probably don't think about how to make it better: the fireplace. We're diving into some really brilliant designs from a company called Tech Rocks for a system that's all about making home heating smarter, way more efficient, and a whole lot cleaner. So let's get right into it.
I mean, really think about it for a second. You get this beautiful, cozy fire going, but where does most of that amazing heat actually end up? Yup, straight up the chimney. A traditional fireplace is honestly pretty terrible at heating a room. It's more like a beautiful decoration than a real heat source. But what if we could actually change that? And that is exactly what the folks at Tech Rocks are trying to do. Looking at these designs, it's clear they're not just making a few small tweaks to the old way of doing things. No, they are completely redesigning how we capture and use the heat from a fire, and they're starting right inside the chimney.
Okay, so let's break down the first big piece of this puzzle. It's called the G2 system, and its entire job is to act like a giant heat trap, stopping all that precious warmth from just vanishing into the sky. So this schematic right here lays out the whole system for us. What you're looking at is the G2. It's a unit that gets mounted right inside your chimney to intercept all that hot exhaust from your fire. So instead of just letting all that heat fly away, the G2 is specifically engineered to grab it and send it back where you want it. So how does it actually pull this off? Well, the cleverness is really in its components. As you can see, it uses a whole network of copper tubes. And if you know anything about metals, you know copper is fantastic at absorbing heat. Then it's got these silvered heat-reflecting walls, basically to bounce all that warmth back out into the room. And it's all managed with a low-power exhaust fan to keep the air moving, held together by a super sturdy steel frame. Let's just trace the path of that heat for a second. So the hot smoke comes up from your fireplace, right? It gets funneled directly into this G2 unit. It then has to snake its way through that whole series of copper tubes, and as it's doing that, the heat literally gets pulled out of the smoke and into the metal. Then those reflective walls do their job, directing all that captured warmth out into your living space, while the now much cooler smoke gets vented out safely. Pretty smart. Now, one of the smartest parts of this whole design is that it's modular. You can see that note there about customizable chimney height. That's huge. It means the system is made of different pieces that can fit together in different ways. So it's not some one-size-fits-all thing. It can actually be adapted to fit all sorts of different homes and chimneys, which makes installation so much more practical. So here's the bottom line, the big difference it makes. A traditional fireplace, it wastes heat and just pumps out soot. The G2 system, on the other hand, recycles that heat, which means lower emissions and way less waste. But, capturing the heat, that's only half the battle. What about the smoke itself? This is where it gets really interesting. Tech Rocks didn't just stop with trapping heat. They designed a second module called the J2, which is basically a smoke condensation chamber, and its job is to literally clean the smoke before it ever leaves your house. This schematic shows us the J2 system, and you can see it's designed to fit right on top of the G2's exhaust. This is really the next level of innovation here, moving from just being efficient to thinking about the environmental impact. The goal is simple: smoke reduction. So, to get how the J2 works, you gotta understand this core idea: smoke condensation. It sounds really complex, but the concept is actually pretty elegant. You basically introduce water vapor, a fine mist, to the smoke. All the nasty stuff, the pollutants like soot and dust, they cling to the water droplets, become heavy, and literally just fall out of the airstream. Which, of course, leads to the big question, right? How on earth do you build a machine that can actually wash smoke? It sounds like something from a sci-fi movie, but the mechanics are all laid out right here in this design. Okay, let's follow the process. A small fan pulls the exhaust up into the J2 chamber. Once inside, a humidifier creates that fine mist we talked about. But here's the really clever part: it uses static electricity plates. These plates attract all the tiny dust and soot particles, pulling them out of the air and forcing them to mix with the water droplets. This heavy, gunky mixture then falls down into a collection tray, leaving much, much cleaner air to be exhausted. It's a whole multi-stage cleaning system in a box. So when you put the G2 and the J2 together, what you get is a complete vision for, well, the future of home heating. It's a system that's not just about being warm, but about being smarter, more efficient, and a whole lot cleaner. So let's just sum it all up. What you're looking at is a system that kind of does it all.
It maximizes the heat you actually get from your fire, which reduces wasted energy and means you might even use less fuel. Then, it actively cleans the exhaust, which means cleaner air for everyone. And it pulls all this off with that smart, modular design that can be adapted for different homes.
And that really leaves us with a pretty powerful thought, doesn't it? I mean, this is just one concept, but imagine the collective impact. What if every single home with a fireplace or a wood stove could not only capture its own wasted heat, but also clean its own emissions? It's a really fascinating look at how some thoughtful engineering could completely transform something we've been taking for granted for centuries.